Tekking Fish Tumble. So today's video is going to be about Aokiji. He used to be an admiral. Okay. It's like, all right, I'll give you a second. You guys want some ice? I got some ice here. I don't really like to chew ice. I know people that do. It just sounds painful to me whenever someone just takes a big cube of ice and just crunches it in their teeth. I'm like, like, why doesn't that hurt you? Your dentist must hate you. I don't know. Anyway, so yes, we're going to be talking about basically a homeless man today. Earlier on Twitter, I was like, today's video is going to be about a wandering homeless man. And it was actually funny because, you know, people are like, well, aren't most pirates homeless? I'm like, well, I mean, kind of. I mean, I would consider the Straw Hats, you know, the Thousand Sunny is their home, but I get what you mean. Some people said, video about Mihawk, and I'm like, that's accurate. Some people said Homeless Emperor from One Punch Man, which, yes, I will announce that right now. I am planning on doing a video about the cadres of the Monster Association at One Punch Man. That'll be a video there. I might do one video on all of them, or I might break it up. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. But yeah, I do need to talk about that dude in particular. But no, we're talking about Kuzan. He was former Admiral Aokiji, the ice guy from the Marines, really strong dude. The first admiral actually introduced in the story. But anyway, we're not talking about Aokiji's character so much. We're just talking about where he's at right now in the story and what's going on with his possible secret mission for the Marines. Or maybe not even for the Marines, but just like his mission, what he's doing right now, okay? So after the epic battle on Punk Hazard between him and Akainu, you know, Aokiji loses in terms of the fight and also loses a leg in the process, you know, so he's not looking too hot there. And then Akainu wins and he becomes the new fleet admiral. Aokiji, from what we know, just decided to leave the Marines. Now, we don't know exactly how that went. We don't know if it was like right after Punk Hazard, you know, there he is on the ground, Aokiji is defeated by Akainu. I believe Jinbei said that Akainu kind of took pity on Aokiji. Maybe not pity is the right word, more of just like respect. He's just like, hey, listen, I don't really agree with your outlook of justice, because, you know, he's all about moral justice. Akainu's all about that absolute justice stuff. So he's like, you know, we don't really agree, but I did respect you as a Marine. I did respect you as a soldier, and they fought for like 10 days on Punk Hazard straight. You know, you don't get into a fight for that long with another person and not have like an understanding of their strengths and powers at the end of it. You just be like, okay, look, you know, you fought me. Then plus, you know, I'm just gonna say it, Akainu was the dominant in that fight. Aokiji was sort of the underdog, because it's freaking ice versus magma. Alright, the fact that Aokiji managed to last as long as he did, I mean, that's crazy, right? So there was a moment there, I think, between Akainu and Aokiji where they were sort of like, you know, brothers in arms sort of deal. Like, they fought for the Marines for so long, and Akainu decided, you know, I'm not gonna end your life here. I could, but I'm not going to. I'll let you live. And maybe Akainu even gave Aokiji an ultimatum or something. Maybe it wasn't Akainu kicking him out of the Marines. Maybe Akainu kind of said to him, like, hey, listen, you know, I'm not gonna end your life here. You can come over to the Marines. I'll be the fleet admiral. You know, you gotta listen to me. I'm gonna be your superior, but you can still be a member of the Marines. And maybe Aokiji was just like, screw that, man. I don't want to be part of the Marines that you're gonna head up, and he just left, which is understandable as well. So that's all we really got from that story. We really haven't seen the battle itself. We've seen Aokiji and Akainu talk about it from every now and then, but we've never really, like, found out exactly what happened in that fight, like the whole story, because the only people that know about it were Akainu and Aokiji that were there on Punk Hazard. Nobody else was around. Maybe Caesar was like in his underground bunker watching them fight with binoculars, and he's like, man, this fight's pretty good, and like popping popcorn or whatever. You know. But anyway, yeah, so nobody's really gonna know until we actually get a flashback to that moment, right? So right now, though, the weird thing is that Aokiji is, well, he's traveling the world with a giant penguin named Camel. That's not the weird part. The weird part is that he's apparently affiliated with the Blackbeard crew in some way, to the point where, so far, we know about the 10 Titanic captains of Blackbeard's crew. So there's obviously 10, because that's in the title, but we only know about 9, as in 9 that were actually revealed in the story or in Vivara cards. Burgess is the captain of the first ship, for instance. Augur is the third. Lafitte is the fifth. Shiryu is the second. I'll just go through all of them if I can remember. Pizarro is the fourth. I believe Davon was the sixth. San Juan Wolf was the seventh. The 8th was Vasco, I think. The 9th was Doc Q, but we don't know the 10th. That's the big deal. We don't know the 10th. And the only other person that we know is strong that is affiliated with the Blackbeard crew, maybe not necessarily a full-fledged member, but affiliated, is Aokiji. So some people have thrown out the idea that Aokiji is going to be the 10th Titanic captain. Now, there could always be another member that Blackbeard enlisted in the 2-year time skip that we just haven't seen yet. We know he's got his initial crew with like Burgess and Lafitte and everybody, and we know that he had the level 6 prisoners like Pizarro and Devon, but it's been 2 years, and he's been gathering a lot of steam and power since then as a Yonko. There might very well be another member that's like in the shadows, might be off doing stuff right now. We didn't get to see it at Beehive Island or whatever, but nevertheless is just as strong as the other members of the crew, and that's the member, right? But barring that option that there's another member that's as strong as the main crew, Aokiji would be the best likely suspect there. Now, the question is, why would Aokiji join the Blackbeard Pirates? So I'm going to throw this out there and say he didn't. I highly doubt, from all of the stuff we know about Aokiji, it makes very little sense for him to go evil. Evil! You know, it's like, he's not doing that. I don't see him doing that. I could see him being resentful at Akainu. I could see him being like, you know, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna become the new fleet admiral, and I'm gonna steer the Marines in the direction I want. And Sengoku even recommended Aokiji as the new fleet admiral. That was obviously the person he wanted to succeed him. And so I'm sure Aokiji was like, I'm gonna do this, and then he lost, and then he could view, you know, resentment for Akainu from what he's done, and also just like, you know what? Screw this, I'm out of the Marines, and he could leave for those reasons. But I don't see him going the whole, like, you know, come to the dark side, you know, quite literally, because Blackbeard has the Yami no Mi powers. I don't see Aokiji being just so butthurt over the loss at Akainu and him being the new fleet admiral that Aokiji's like, screw this, I'm gonna go be a pirate now, and I'm gonna be a member of the Blackbeard crew, and I'm gonna do dastardly deeds all over the New World. From what we've learned from Aokiji, and the fact he's been in the Marines for most of his life, that makes no sense. So it's either got to be two reasons for this, and both come down to the same thing, but there's different reasons for each one, okay? So he's working undercover. He's being like a secret agent, you know, Iceman. You know, he's going undercover to try to, like, figure out what the Blackbeard crew are doing. Maybe he can get an in with them, and then at the last minute, he takes out an ice shard and just, in the back of Blackbeard's neck. I don't know, maybe. His neck is apparently down here. I don't know what I was doing with that. He's like, Aokiji goes in for he's like, I'm gonna end this guy's existence right now. He slips on a banana peel or something and just, he's like, oh, my appendix, no! And then, you know, whatever. But you know what I mean? So that's a possibility, but why would he be doing that, all right? Why would he be going in for that? Either that's a secret mission for the Marines. Okay, that's the first possibility. Like, he and Akainu really are on better terms than you would think they were. And they're actually doing this together in tandem. Kind of a similar thing to what Sengoku and Roshinate did. You know, Roshinate went undercover in the Doflamingo family, and he was reporting back to Sengoku about all the stuff that's happening. In fact, you know, Aokiji and Akainu, they both got their differences personality-wise, but they're both really intelligent Marines. So, I'm thinking this would be an insanely smart thing if they were fighting on Punk Hazard and they just, like, whoever won the fight, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but they decided that whoever loses decides to go and work undercover, and just the hatred that the world kind of knows that Aokiji and Akainu don't like each other, so that would just help bolster the belief that Aokiji left. He's like, screw Akainu, I'm out of here, and then maybe that would help Blackbeard, like, accept Aokiji in, like, that he would make him trust him more, and just be like, you know, I know you don't like the Marines anymore, well, come over to my side then, right? In fact, here's a possibility. What if Aokiji actually won? Now, the fight was real. The fight was an actual fight and all that stuff. But what happens if Aokiji actually won the fight, but they decided, you know what would be smart here, to use this big fight that everybody in the world knows about. They didn't see the fight, but everybody in the world knew they fought on Punk Hazard. It was a big event. Alright, Jinbei even said that to the Straw Hats. There's two big events from the time skip you need to know about. One is Blackbeard being the new Yonko, and the other is Aokiji and Akainu's fight, right? So, maybe Aokiji wins, but over the course of the fight, they decided, you know, the smart thing to do would be, you know, for us to separate here, you to go to be the new fleet admiral, me to go out into the world sort of like I'm dejected by my defeats, and then that way I might be able to get into good graces with the Blackbeard crew or another Yonko to kind of see what's going on with their plan. Because Aokiji and Akainu, Kizaru as well, they all were front and center at Marineford when Blackbeard showed up, and Blackbeard wiped out Whitebeard and took his fruit. Like, that, all that stuff, big shocking moments, and, you know, stealing a devil fruit, especially having 2 devil fruits. I mean, that's a crazy thing that nobody's been capable of doing. So I like to think they were going to investigate this, and they were aware of how dangerous he was, but they needed to come up with a good reason for it. They couldn't just have, like, any regular Marine try to get into good graces with the Blackbeard crew. Blackbeard would see that coming a mile away and eliminate them. So they had this fight, and maybe, like, the fight began as, like, actual resentment, but you're fighting for 10 days. 10 freaking days. Maybe at one point it's just, like, coming up with this plan instead. Like, because Akainu wouldn't really work in that situation, because Akainu, he's got that absolute justice crap. I don't think he would have been able to play that part the right way. I don't think Akainu would have been able to seep in undercover in Blackbeard's crew. I think Blackbeard would have never trusted Akainu, because he's such like a rigid sort of mountain or volcano of a man, would be a better analogy. Just like, no, he's always about the true justice. He's always about busting pirates' heads. He's never going to change. And if all of a sudden, if Akainu, hello there, scum of the earth, honorable Yonko Blackbeard. I am Akainu. I got defeated by Aokiji's hands, so I left the Marines. So I am now here to totally legitimately join your crew. You know, like Akainu, they wouldn't trust Akainu. There's no way. Aokiji, on the other hand, though, he's a little bit more flexible, right? You throw out a big story the entire world hears about, Aokiji's defeat, he defects from the Marines, Blackbeard hears this story and notices, hey, you know, Aokiji, he might actually work. I could actually see him coming over to my side if I provide the right incentive. And I maybe offer my assistance. Maybe Blackbeard's offer to Aokiji was like, Aokiji, I hear, or Kuzan now I should say, I hear you and Akainu there had a little bit of a fight. Well, tell you what, if you join my crew, I'll treat you right. And if, you know, we win, we can conquer the world, and I can make you the head of the Marines, or we could dismantle the Marines altogether, whatever you want. Revenge is kind of my thing. You know, I'm the guy that took down Whitebeard, and I've been planning that for decades. Like, if you join up with me, we can take down the Marines. And then all Aokiji would have to do at that point is just to kind of spin it and just go with it and just be like, yeah, I freaking hate Akainu. He's going to run the Marines into the ground. Screw that. I'll join you up with you. Why not? Now, it's important that Aokiji has to play the part. He can't be, like, bowing down in front of Blackbeard, like, yes, sir, I'll do whatever you say. That's laying it on a little bit too thick there. But I think Aokiji, he has the skills to kind of manipulate him and to make him think that he's on his side and he can get into good graces with Blackbeard. Now, even with that being the case, Blackbeard still would not trust him 100%. And even if Blackbeard did, there's plenty of other people like Shiryu and Augur and Lafitte that I don't think would trust Aokiji or anybody from the Marines. So they would always keep an eye on him. So it's possible Aokiji would have had to go out and maybe do some things to kind of like, you know, prove his loyalty to Blackbeard's cause. Some things that might be not very, you know, up and coming, for some things that were pretty grisly for a former Marine officer to do, but he might have had to do it. All right, and maybe that's why, because the Gorosei were even talking about this to Akainu. The Gorosei were like, Aokiji fell into the darkness or whatever. You need to do something about this guy, Akainu. And Akainu's response to the Gorosei was just like, screw that guy, I don't care. He could do whatever he wants. Does that really sound like the appropriate response to like, oh yeah, one of our former high-ranking Marines decided to defect after I beat him fair and square, and then he went out to join one of the Yonko, and now he's wreaking havoc in the world. Screw that, not my problem. Yeah, kind of, a little bit. It's a little weird when you think about that Akainu would just be, considering this is true justice Akainu we're talking about here. We're talking about a guy, if this was like just how we've seen it so far, if this was just spelled out like the normal way, like Aokiji just like left the Marines, that's something, and join the Yonko, like, legitimately turn to the side of evil. I don't think that happened, but let's just say it did. Akainu would be livid about that. Akainu would be like, we need to stop Kuzan right here and now, and it's my responsibility as the new fleet admiral to bring him in. It's my responsibility to deal with this traitor. You know, that would be his perspective. That's true justice. That's what he does, right? He's a traitor to the Marines. He joined the Yonko. I'm gonna personally roll up with my freaking fleet, and I'm gonna freaking brawl with him, right? But Akainu just seems very just indifferent towards Aokiji. He's like, yeah, that's his problem. I don't care. It's not my problem to deal with. So yeah, that kind of cued me up that there's something going on here. Now, the other option, the other path to this secret mission or betrayal or whatever you want to call it, doesn't involve him secretly working for the Marines. Instead, you know, Akainu won, fair and square, Aokiji left, and just on his own, without being a member of the Marines, even like in an underhanded sort of like secret agent kind of way, he just decided, you know what, maybe he wandered for a little bit, licking his wounds, waited for his body to heal up a little bit, you know, having to deal with no leg, that's kind of a deal, you know, like, well, he could just make a fake leg with ice, but still, I mean, he's missing a leg, you know, he doesn't have feeling in there anymore, it's just ice, right? Very convenient he has those powers at that point, right? So maybe he spent a while, you know, healing up, and then thinking about what he was going to do next, just wandering the world as a vagrant or as a homeless man, basically. You know, ice! You got ice! Oh my god, I gotta tell you, okay, quick side note, alright, so, when I was working at Dollar Tree, there was a guy, and I never learned his name, I just called him Old Homeless Joe, because he was a homeless guy, and he lived in the woods behind the shopping plaza, and he had a bunch of dogs that he took care of back there, at least that's what I've heard. I never went back to see Old Homeless Joe's little shanty, but apparently he lived back there, and he was a nice enough guy. He would always walk around, he's like covered in dirt, having a long beard, and carrying a backpack around, and all that stuff. He would be very nice whenever he would talk to us, you know, even the other people that worked at Dollar Tree liked to see him, you know? And then one day, though, I heard Homeless Joe got into a fight with some people, and the police came, and they arrested him, and we didn't see old Homeless Joe much after that, but wherever you're at right now, Homeless Joe, I hope you're in a better place. You're probably not watching this right now because, you know, you're homeless, but maybe you're not homeless anymore. I hope it all worked out for you, buddy. But yeah, he's a kid, old homeless Kuzan, just traveling the seven seas. And he still looks pretty cool. I mean, as for a homeless guy, he's got a pretty nice outfit. He's got the boots, the cool parka, you know, the fur kind of lining there. He's got the nice cap, you know. I mean, back when he was an admiral, he looked kind of nice too. But now he's got, you know, it works for him, you know. So, then he decided after maybe traveling for a little bit, you know, he noticed the influence that Blackbeard was spreading. It was sort of like a disease or a virus. You know, it started small, and then he got a little bit of a crew, and then he got to Marineford, an even bigger crew with the Impel Down prisoners and Shiryu and everything, and then he left, and now maybe Aokiji just spent the time slowly observing that Blackbeard's influence was growing in the seas, and kind of like that same thing he saw with the Straw Hats when he saw them at Long Ring Longland. He's like, this is a storm that's coming, but it's like a much more ominous storm than the Straw Hats. Like, this is big. Like, I need to figure out a way to get into them, to get into Blackbeard's crew, right? And like I said, Blackbeard would definitely not trust him at first, but he can't overlook Aokiji's power. He is one of the strongest fighters in the entire story. He used to be an admiral. He has one of the best Logias, an awakened Logia from what it seems like the battle at Punk Hazard. Like, he can afflict the weather. Hockey, he's got hockey. You know, freaking Whitebeard stabbed him with a Bicento right through him, and he was able to, like, dodge the attack by turning, like, his body, like, into, like, he had made a hole of ice, so the Bicento went through him. So, observation's really on point there. So, yeah, he's really skilled. Plus, he went up against a lava user, which you think would be the exact opposite of his fruit, like the exact weakness, and he went up against him for 10 days. So, you know, Blackbeard just can't shoo him away. You know, freaking homeless Kuzan shows up at his doorstep with his giant penguin companion and then drops his backpack on the ground, and he's just like, so I hear you're Blackbeard. You're Marshal D. Teach. He's like, I have a deal for you. And it's probably like a give and take sort of deal where maybe Blackbeard offered some revenge for, you know, Aokiji to take down Akainu or the Marines in general. And in exchange for that, Aokiji might give him some secrets that because, you know, he was a Marine, he was an admiral for many years. I'm sure he's got some hot news that Blackbeard would love to hear about. And then maybe Blackbeard told him, you know, it's like, well, tell you what, if you go wipe out that island over there, if you go freeze over that island and, you know, conquer it for me, then I'll maybe listen to you. And Aokiji might have been like, well, maybe I gotta do what I gotta do. Because the main point of this is, like, figuring out a way to take out Blackbeard. I mean, that's the point of his mission. Whether it's a mission from the Marines or if it's his own mission, just he feels like it's his duty, just his sense of justice, his sense of moral justice to go after Blackbeard and take him out any way that he can. I mean, he might do that. Now, you also can't overlook the Revolutionary Army here in Dragon, okay? Because Dragon and his army, they're also kind of like the vagabonds of the world, you know, where the Revolutionary Army it's not quite as organized, and it doesn't have all the prestige as the Marines, but I don't think they're also quite as powerful as the Yonko. I made that video about the 3 great powers of One Piece a few weeks back, and the 3 great powers are the Warlords, the Yonko, and the Marines, and some people were curious, like, how come the Revolutionary Army isn't one of those 3 powers? Well, that's never been mentioned. It's never been mentioned by the Gorosei that they're one of those powers, so their influence and power might not just be strong enough yet, or the Gorosei might just be overlooking it, or they might know there might be a power, but they don't want to let the world know that they're a power, because that might be giving them too much credit. Like, if the Gorosei or the world government come out and say, yes, the Revolutionary Army are now a power that is rivaling the Warlords and the Marines, that might give the wrong impression to the world. That might give the world, like, more people wanting to, you know, inspiration to join the Revolutionary Army. Like, oh, really? They're that powerful? Oh, okay. I'll join up with them then. We might have a good chance of taking out the world government. You know, I always had problems with them, you know, so they might very well be a world power. It's never been mentioned by the world government that they are officially a world power yet, but they certainly do have influence in the world, even if they're not as, like, they don't have as many members as the Marines, or they're not, like, as brutally strong as the Yonko. They still have influence, right? So Aokiji might have met with them. In fact, I'll tell you what right now, if Dragon is smart at all, what he would have done is, the second that he heard that Aokiji defected the Marines and he's apparently just on his own wandering, Dragon himself, not one of his commanders, not Sabo, Dragon himself would have went into the New World, found where Aokiji was, and then, you know, extend the offer. And just be like, you know, I heard you left the Marines. You know, we could definitely use someone of your power and your ideals in the Revolutionary Army. Okay, because you know Dragon was keeping an eye out on all that stuff. He's keeping basically a finger on the pulse of the world government, of the Marines, and you know Dragon and the rest of the Revolutionary Army are just sitting there looking at various Marines, at maybe people that might be able to come over to their side. Like, they would look at Akainu and they'd be like, there's no way Akainu is going to work on the Revolutionary Army side. We can just cross him off. Aokiji, though, on the other hand, it might be possible if we can recruit him, and then the opportunity presented itself. Dragon should have been right there to be like, you know what, you have nowhere else to go? Tell you what, join up with us. And there's even a line that Aokiji said, I think, to Smoker after he saved his ass on Punk Hazard from Dofi. There's a line there where Aokiji's like, you know, I don't regret leaving the Marines. In fact, there are things now that I am no longer part of the Marines that my eyes are becoming open to. So I think that can either mean one of two things. I'm noticing that a lot in this video. It can mean one of two things. It can either mean he's just opening his eyes to the world government as a whole and how corrupted they are, and the things that the world government might have been keeping secret from the Marines, but Aokiji's now witnessing with his own eyes as he's traveling. Or it could mean that he met the Revolutionary Army, and the Revolutionary Army is the one that's opening his eyes to the plight of the common people in the world. Maybe something, once again, the world government or the Marines didn't really focus on too much. You know, Dragon could have told him, he's like, you know, the pirates aren't the only threat in the world. I mean, they are a threat, but the world government's doing a lot more harm to these citizens. And maybe Dragon even showed Aokiji, like, how much the world government really is oppressing the people. And that's what Aokiji meant by, like, my eyes are beginning to open. There's things I'm starting to notice now that I'm no longer part of the Marines. So, yeah, I guess if I had to choose there between him being a secret agent for the Marines working for Blackbeard, or him being a secret agent of the Revolutionary Army working for Blackbeard, I would probably angle more with the Revolutionary Army. But still, that line that Akainu said about, like, not caring about Kuzan or not going after him or not dealing with him directly, considering what he did, and he was a traitor to the Marines and working for a Yonko now, apparently, that makes me think that Akainu might be privy to some info. Or maybe it's not like Akainu and Aokiji are working together on this, but maybe, let's say Aokiji is working with Dragon, trying to take out Blackbeard, and maybe Aokiji was aware that if Akainu finds out about that, he's going to come and attack me. So maybe he contacted Akainu in secret somehow, and maybe there was a secret meeting between the two, and they're just like, listen, Sakazuki. I know you're going to hate this. I know you don't like me very much, but we got to deal with Blackbeard, all right? And so right now I'm working for Dragon. You know, Sakazuki would grumble at that. But he's like, shut up. I know. I'm working with Dragon. We're trying to take out Blackbeard, or we're trying to deal with this stuff right now, or this is what I feel is important right now. And Sakazuki might just be like, you know what? I don't care. Do whatever you want. And he just left. Don't expect any help from the Marines. But whatever, I'm out. You know, maybe because he's like, well, we do have to take care of Blackbeard. And I know Dragon's perspective is more for dealing with the world government and the Tenryubito rather than Blackbeard. But Blackbeard he's a problem for everybody. That's the thing. He's a problem for the world government. He's a problem for the Marines. He's a problem for the revolutionaries. He's a problem for the other Yonko. He's a problem for the warlords. He's a problem for all the citizens. Blackbeard is like the chaotic evil dude that just wants to kind of see the world burn down, kind of. I hesitate with that a little bit because we still don't know what his ultimate goal is. We know it's to gather power, but beyond that, we just don't know. I made a video about that too, but it's like, he's a problem. He's like a tumor for everybody. That if he's just left unchecked, it doesn't matter if the Revolutionary Army wins. The Revolutionary Army could win and dismantle the Tenryubito. You still have Blackbeard to deal with. The warlords could be dismantled and a new system could be introduced, or a new weapon could be introduced that's better than the warlords. That's great. You still got Blackbeard. Big Mom and Kaido could be both defeated. That's great. Blackbeard's kind of more of a threat if you just leave him unchecked and just let him gather more power and power. And he's been planning this forever, you know, so, you know, this might just come down to a thing where, like, all these organizations are just going to have to bite the bullet and just deal with Blackbeard all at once in order to make sure he stays down. But yeah, that's pretty much the video. I wanted to ask you guys, you know, of course, what your opinion of this whole thing was. You know, where does Aokiji stand right now on that line of justice? Maybe he had to change a little bit so he could get in good graces with Blackbeard. What's the deal with his relationship with Akainu right now? Why did Akainu not go after him? Or why doesn't he seem interested in him? What if he's working for the Revolutionary Army? That's definitely an option. Maybe he's just working all by himself, like he doesn't really have any allies. Like Smoker. Smoker's his friend. But beyond that, he doesn't have allies in high places. He doesn't have connections to the Marines, the Revolutionary Army, or anything like that. He's just doing most of this on his own. And what's his ultimate goal here? Is his goal working for the Blackbeard crew? Is it just to try to figure out a way to wipe out Blackbeard? Or is it like Blackbeard's looking for an ancient weapon like Pluton, and Aokiji just wants to be there when he finds it so he can maybe, you know, make sure Blackbeard doesn't get his hands on it? Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. But, thanks for watching, everybody, and also let me know what you think of my my cowlick over here. I like it. It's a nice distraction for the entire video in case you got tired of looking at my face or Barry. I know you'd never get tired of looking at Barry, but you know, you could just, you know, focus in on my cowlick here for a good 15 minutes or something. So that's why I keep it. That's why it's up there. All right. Well, thanks everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. I'm gonna have some nice water here. That's refreshing.